What a difference 48 hours makes in the complexion of the world and its geopolitical scene. As most of you are probably well aware now, at this point, the United States, in conjunction with Israel, has launched an all out attack on the nation of Iran. Now, as I look through social media, I see all kinds of differing viewpoints, and some people support this. Other people, just fundamentally do not support war. I will include myself in that camp. I do not believe in war. War is not constructive, and most often in the case of war, and you can cite whatever example you want. Let's use the Russia-Ukraine thing. Here you have Russia, who made a couple of very cheap and very, very lame excuses for starting a war with Ukraine, and the arrogance and the chest pounding was palpable. And Vladimir Putin was saying, 3 days, we're going to march into Kiev, and the people will throw roses at us, and we're going to be the heroes, and we're going to liberate the Ukrainians. So let me get that straight. He wanted to liberate people that were already liberated, and he wanted to liberate them by capturing them. I see. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Little humor there, a very little humor. So, when you look at the situation in Iran, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be repercussions. We live in a world that is so technologically intertwined, as well as commercially intertwined, that when one country sneezes, the rest of the world says Gesundheit. There's an interconnection there. And I'd like to look a little bit at some of the things that could create some enormous pushback. The first thing is, I think that the Trump administration really didn't think this through very well in terms of, they came to the negotiating table, to the bargaining table, portrayed themselves as bargaining in good faith, and as these talks between Iran and the United States, as they progressed and as they went along, we started to hear some optimism, not just from the Iranians, but we started to hear some optimism, just as little as late last week, that there's progress being made. And lo and behold, the United States of America and the Western Hemisphere wakes up the very next day to find out that the United States and Israel has just decided, like that they're going to pounce on Iran. So, do we find anything confusing here? On the one hand, there's this margin for optimism, and there's a hope that this is going to resolve peacefully and diplomatically. And right in the throes of diplomacy, Donald Trump essentially shits the bed. I cannot see that is going to win him any brownie points in the eyes of the electorate. The reasons for him starting this war, I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole as well. I would say that there is a probability, or at least at bare minimum, a possibility, that there is going to be an election upcoming in months for Israel, and there's going to be an election, a midterm election, that's going to be coming up in the United States. Are these gentlemen, Netanyahu and Trump, are they capable of saying, oh, well, you know what, we're in a time of war right now, elections are not appropriate, so therefore, maybe what we'll do is we'll just put them off for a while. How convenient. And I've heard people say, well, Donald Trump could never do that because constitutionally, he's not allowed to do that. Understood. But let's get one thing kind of squared away here. When it comes to Donald Trump, he does not follow the Constitution to the letter of the law, number one. And number two, do you honestly think that he would not risk creating a constitutional crisis to start the adversity in the back nines to sandbag or postpone that election? I think he's well capable of doing that. So I think the other point of real big pushback that's coming is the developments in the Strait of Hormuz in Iran, and they have essentially shut down the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's oil goes through this strait, and your guess is as good as mine what the repercussions are going to be across the globe. I've heard estimates by some analysts that suggest that when this is all said and done, the price of a barrel of oil can go to $108 per barrel. Now, who's going to pay that? We're going to pay that at the pumps. And that is going, if that comes to fruition, that's going to be a very, very lofty increase. And there's going to be economic fallout from it. We're talking about triggering inflation all over again here if this goes on for any sustained period. So, I like to characterize it this way. I think that you have people like Trump and Netanyahu who get ideas in their head. And let's throw Vladimir Putin into that mix. And they get an idea in their head, and they don't really think of the repercussions to the average person. They just think of what's good for me. It's all about them. I've often suggested that, all three of those people should be locked in a room and left to their own device and let them duke it out. And if they have this compulsion to destroy people, let them take it out on each other. Leave the normal, decent, hardworking people who have values alone. That's what I say. So I think one of the other things that has happened, and this is a big one. For me, this is a huge item. Seemingly on the first day of this invasion, either the United States or the nation of Israel, it's a little unclear as to which one, but they are working hand in hand, has bombed an elementary school in Manab, which is just outside of Tehran. Essentially, 148 young elementary age girls lost their lives. And the problem I have with that, beyond the obvious, that stuff should never be happening. If you're going to claim, as Israel has complained or have claimed, that Iran has nuclear weapons, so can someone please convince me of how it is that bombing 148 schoolgirls and ending their lives is going to change the alleged nuclear threat? I don't really understand that. Please, someone, please educate me. And this is just a continuation of this new style of the way politics is played out and the way foreign policies are played out. These people, and you know, and let's throw Benjamin Netanyahu in that mix too. How many people, how many children did he exterminate in Gaza and the West Bank under the name of what? Zionism? Or was he, by killing those children, was he doing something morally commendable? That kind of stuff is completely inexcusable. It doesn't matter what your motive is. If you know, the nation of Israel and the nation of the United States, if they are being genuine, which I don't think they are, if they're being genuine about they're being worried about nuclear capabilities, you're not going to solve the problem by killing children. That's number one. And number two, this just came out today. Now there are reports that Israel and the United States, one or both, have bombed hospitals in Tehran. So let's drag the sick people and the dying people into this mix again. Let's make a big excuse and say, oh, there could be nuclear capabilities here. So let's, you know, what they're saying is, essentially, let's get rid of infirmed people as a solution to the problem. That's bullshit. That's always going to be bullshit. And, you know, I think the world is struggling for accountability in the face of that nonsense. If only we could snap our fingers and call these people to account. But the people who run this world are criminals. No questions about that. Donald Trump was elected by his base and a percentage of the remaining population on the premise, or one of the premises of which was no new wars. I got to say something, in this second term, he's off to a real shitty start in that department, because he's tried to start a war in Venezuela, right? He's talking about a friendly takeover of Cuba. He created a problem there by withholding oil shipments to them, starved the country, caused economic chaos, and now he wants to do a friendly war. This is imperialism. This is Donald Trump imperialism. And I dare say, I don't believe the average person inside of the United States is an imperialist. People don't believe in war. They don't believe in aggression. And people believe in peace. And there might be a few wackos out there. Of course there is a few wackos when it comes to any issue. But the other thing that Donald Trump did not do is he did not consult with Congress. That, in and of itself, is a constitutional crisis. But when you have so much power as a dictator over your own party, you're going to be hard-pressed to get anybody to stand up and say, from the Republican Party, no, you should have checked with us first. Okay? Mike Johnson and his Republican people essentially are cowards. they are when it comes to politically standing up to Donald Trump and saying we are co-equal branches of government here, we are the checks and balances on you and vice versa. Instead, Republicans only have one answer to anything Donald Trump says. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full, sir. Would you like a little more sweetener in your coffee? How about your evening paper? Can I put your slippers on for you? That's exactly what the Republican Party has become. The United States of America is being run by the executive branch. And the Congress, which is controlled by the Republicans, are being voluntold as to what's acceptable behavior, what you can object to, what you must agree to, otherwise there's going to be political repercussions. That's just baloney. He should have consulted with Congress before he did this. Another point of political blowback inside this issue with Iran is, let's make a little perspective here on one of the first orders of business where Israel and the United States essentially executed a world leader. Pretty much on day one of the start of this war. That's generally accepted as being a major no-no. Okay? Gerald Ford, former president of the United States, at one time he had signed an executive order that said that, the country cannot assassinate other world leaders and foreign leaders. And I think that's an important part of decorum. What's going to happen inside of Iran now? I think the near-term goal for Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu is they want to create instability inside Iran, and they want to create chaos. I know what Donald Trump said. He came out and says, to the people of Iran, now is your moment, and you can seize the reins of power, and you can define your own destiny here, and blah, blah, blah. Look, everybody knows that there is a reason why governments do not topple the leader of other governments. Because oftentimes what happens when you do that, you create this temporary power vacuum, and some entity must take its place in its stead. And they're well aware, these governments are well aware, that if we depose somebody, we don't know what the heck we're going to get. It could be far worse than what we had in the first place. And I'll tell you another thing that was far worse than what they had in the first place is Donald Trump ripping up the agreement that Obama signed, which according to all accounts at the UN was working just fine, and that Iran was in compliance and everything was hunky-dory, and they were going to be given, limited amounts of uranium, for purposes of, power generation and for use by the people. And Donald Trump, in his typical infantile manner, just ripped that up, and here we are a year later. That agreement is ripped up. We're right back to square one, and Donald Trump has essentially dragged every other human being who lives in North America or in the Western Hemisphere or in Europe or in the Middle East or in Asia. He's dragged everyone into his mud. You didn't even get an invitation. You didn't get a chance to say yes or no. He just dragged you into the mud. And proof of that is, tell me what the price of your gasoline is going to be on Tuesday morning. I'd like to know the answer to that, because I sense that that's not going to be fun. In closing, I'd like to share this, and I just want to thank everybody. You know, my style when I do these little podcasts is I don't sit and script everything, and you're definitely not getting an AI bot here, where they sound robotic, whether they write their script and then they attach the voice to the image of a real human being. I prepare these remarks in my head. I look at what I do with people in sharing this podcast as a commentary a lot of times. Sometimes I'll pull out news items and bring them up directly and reference them directly, with a video or with a news clip or something like that. But sometimes I feel the need just to muse and just to share my comments. Now, granted, in this video format, this can be a one-way conversation. And please believe me, I don't want it to be a one-way conversation. And for that reason, I invite you and encourage you and implore you, please put your comments in the comment section as well, because I'd love to hear what you have to say as well. And seeing as this is a relatively new podcast, we sure do appreciate the support that people have given us thus far by liking and sharing and subscribing to this podcast. And if you haven't done so already, I'm just asking one more time. We're trying to build an audience, and if you like the muses, please give us a subscribe. And you have a great day and a great week, and I'll be looking pretty hard at what's going on in the next few days.